Welcome back everybody, I'm Janan Khaber, your host, and today I'm going to react to a video called You'll Never Look at ThunderCats the Same Way Again. Now for new updates and content you can visit the links in the description down below, and let's get started. Enjoy.
If those words just sent a shiver down your spine, you already know exactly what we're about to revisit. Picture it, 1985. You've just gotten home from school, thrown your backpack in the corner, and planted yourself 3 feet from the television. The opening credits roll. Whew, that electric guitar riff, those animated muscles, that gleaming sword of omens catching the light. For the next 30 minutes, nothing else existed. No homework, no dinner calls, nothing. Just Third Earth. This is the complete story of the ThunderCats, from the destruction of their homeworld to their final triumph on New Thundera, from a boy king who aged into a warrior to an ancient evil who refused to stay buried, and who in the end broke free from the very masters who'd given him his power. Most fans remember the show fondly, but a lot of them never actually saw how it ended, or what it meant that the villain didn't really lose. Not in any permanent sense anyway. So let's go back to the beginning. The story. Part 1. The World and Heroes.
Let's go, ThunderCats!
When ThunderCats debuted in January 1985, it dropped us into something genuinely unlike anything else on television at the time. This wasn't just another weekday afternoon cartoon. It was mythic storytelling wrapped in science fiction with a heavy seasoning of sword and sorcery fantasy. And somehow, it all held together. The premise announced itself immediately and without apology. The planet Thundera was dying, literally tearing itself apart, and the noble ThunderCats, cat-like humanoid warriors who'd built an entire civilization, had to flee their homeworld as it exploded behind them. That's how the show opened. Not with a villain monologue or a slow world-building episode, with the end of a world. Imagine watching everything you've ever known disappear in the rearview mirror. That image stuck. Their destination was a mysterious planet called Third Earth, where ancient magic collided with futuristic technology in ways that somehow felt completely natural. It was as if someone had dropped Conan the Barbarian into a world designed by NASA, then layered in talking animals and Egyptian mythology for atmosphere. Nothing else on television looked or felt like it, and kids could sense that even if they couldn't quite articulate why. The heroes we wanted to be. Lion-O stood at the center of everything. And what made him genuinely interesting was his starting condition. He began the series as a boy. During the long journey through space, his suspension capsule malfunctioned and his body aged to adulthood while his mind remained that of a 12-year-old child. A kid's perspective inside a warrior's body, suddenly responsible for leading the last survivors of his entire species. That's a premise with some actual weight to it. That internal conflict defined Lion-O's arc across the whole series. He wielded the legendary Sword of Omens, home to the mystical Eye of Thundera, which could see beyond sight and summon his allies from any distance. When he raised that sword, extended the crossguard, and called out the battle cry, every kid watching extended their own imaginary blade. That's not a small thing. That's the kind of moment that stays with you. But Lion-O didn't carry the burden alone. Tigra served as the voice of wisdom and strategy, a tiger-like warrior who could turn invisible and wielded a bolo whip with real skill. Panthro brought the muscle and the mechanical genius. His nunchucks and his ability to build anything, from the Thunder Tank to Cat's Lair itself, made him the team's backbone in ways that didn't always get enough credit. Wily Kid and Wily Cat, the young twins, handled reconnaissance and provided some lightness to stories that could otherwise get pretty heavy. And hovering over them all in spirit form was Jaga, the ancient warrior who sacrificed his life during the journey from Thundera to save his people. His ghost continued guiding Lion-O throughout the series, a mentor who'd given everything and kept giving anyway. That's a quietly powerful idea for a kids' show.
The Interstellar Council ruled against warp gas.
The women who made Hearts Race.
Men are innocent. We can't fight them either.
Chitara deserves more than a quick mention, because she was genuinely exceptional by the standards of animated television in 1985. She wasn't the token female presence on the team. She was arguably the most formidable ThunderCat in pure combat terms. Her speed was unmatched, a blur of spotted gold that could cross a battlefield before anyone had time to react. She wielded an extending bow staff with lethal precision. What made her stand out beyond the fighting was the sixth sense she possessed, psychic abilities that repeatedly saved the team in situations where brute strength had no answer. Intelligence, intuition, speed, and combat skill, all in one character. For a generation of young viewers, she represented something they hadn't really encountered before in animation. A woman who was simply, undeniably powerful. Her design was elegant without being cartoonish, strong without any softening of the edges. The other ThunderCats trusted her instincts, and that trust was earned on screen. That meant something. The villains we love to hate.
And I will obey! Mumra!
And then there was Mumra. Ancient spirits of evil transformed this decayed form to Mumra, the ever-living. That transformation sequence genuinely haunted childhoods across America. The withered, bandaged corpse rising from that black pyramid, becoming a towering demon radiating pure malevolence. Those red eyes, that gravelly voice carrying centuries of absolute hatred. The design was extraordinary. He looked like a nightmare someone had bothered to animate. Mum-Ra was an ancient Egyptian-style sorcerer who had ruled Third Earth for millennia, drawing his power from the ancient spirits of evil themselves. His goal was straightforward and terrifying: obtain the Eye of Thundera and use it to dominate everything. The ThunderCats were an obstacle, and obstacles had to be removed. The thing that made him genuinely frightening as a villain wasn't just the power, it was the permanence. You could defeat him, you could drive him back to that pyramid, but he was always going to return. He had all the time in the world. He commanded the mutants of Plundar, Slive, Jackalman, Monkian, who were effective as thugs but never felt like real threats on their own. They were instruments. Mum-Ra was the mind behind them, and the ancient spirits of evil were the power behind him. That three-tier structure gave the show's antagonist side a depth that a lot of cartoons from that era didn't bother with.
Behold for yourselves. Sword of Omens, give me sight.
The Story, Part 2, The Journey and Ending. The Anointment Trials stand out as some of the show's finest storytelling. A multi-episode arc in which Lion-O had to prove himself worthy of lordship by defeating each ThunderCat in their own area of specialty. Panthro's strength, Chitara's speed, Tigra's mind games, the twins' cunning. Each trial was designed to expose a weakness, and each victory felt genuinely earned rather than handed to him. For a show aimed at younger kids, that arc was surprisingly thoughtful about what leadership actually costs. The arrival of new ThunderCats, Linkso, Bengali, Humira, expanded the universe without overwhelming it. More importantly, it changed the emotional tone of the show. The discovery of other Thunderian survivors meant the ThunderCats weren't the last of their kind after all. Hope showed up as a plot point, and it landed with real impact. There were also standalone episodes that burned themselves into memory. Lion-O trapped in the astral plane. Mum-Ra disguising himself as a ThunderCat to infiltrate Cat's lair from the inside. Moments where the Sword of Omens was damaged or stolen, and the heroes had to find out who they were without their greatest weapon. Those episodes had something to say, and they said it without getting preachy about it.
Yeah, very good.
The ongoing mission.
Now, Jogger,
Look out the window, Lion-O.
Across 4 seasons and 130 episodes, the show's mission evolved in ways that kept it from feeling repetitive. What began as pure survival on a hostile alien planet gradually became something larger. The ThunderCats weren't refugees scrambling to stay alive anymore. They were builders. They were trying to create something that could last. Lion-O's growth ran parallel to that shift. The boy's mind inside the man's body didn't stay a boy's mind forever. He made mistakes, plenty of significant ones, but the show took those mistakes seriously and made him learn from them. By the later seasons, he had become the leader Jaga believed he could be, and that arc felt earned in a way that slow-burn character development rarely does in animation. The stakes kept escalating. Mum-Ra's schemes became more elaborate. The Lunatics arrived from the moons of Plundar with their own particular brand of chaos. And then came the discovery that changed everything. Thundera hadn't been completely destroyed. Fragments remained, and from those fragments, something new might be built. The final episodes. The 4th season concluded on September 29, 1989. and it delivered genuine closure rather than the kind of open-ended non-ending that frustrated fans of so many other shows from that era. The ThunderCats had returned to a rebuilt version of their homeworld, now called New Thundera. What had been unstable and dangerous had been rendered peaceful. The civilization that exploded apart in that first episode had been reconstructed, not perfectly, but durably. The refugees had become founders. The Book of Omens, that recurring mystery whose secrets had driven storylines across multiple seasons, was finally opened. Ancient Thunderian knowledge, preserved and waiting, now available to guide future generations. It was a satisfying resolution to a thread the show had been careful to keep visible throughout its run. But Mumra's fate is what makes the ending genuinely interesting. He didn't die in some climactic final confrontation. He wasn't sealed away in a permanent prison. What actually happened was more surprising. Mumra asserted himself over the ancient spirits of evil. The servant broke free from the masters who had given him his power. For the entire series, that three-tier structure, spirits above Mumra, above the mutants, had defined the show's antagonist side. The finale dismantled it from within. Mumra wasn't destroyed. He evolved into something independent, something potentially more dangerous than before, because now nobody owned him. The ThunderCats had won their war, but the thing they'd been fighting had changed shape. That's not a clean ending, and it wasn't meant to be. The legacy and revival attempts.
Thanks again, whoever you are!
ThunderCats didn't stay in the 1980s quietly. The property returned in 2011 with a rebooted animated series on Cartoon Network that reimagined the mythology for a new generation. Darker, more serialized, willing to complicate the moral landscape of the original. It developed its own devoted fan base before cancellation after one season, which remains a genuine loss for people who found it. In 2020, ThunderCats Roar took the franchise in a dramatically different direction. A comedic reimagining with an intentionally stylized animation style that divided the fan base sharply. Some viewers appreciated the humor and the willingness to do something unexpected with the property. Others felt it missed the point of what the original had actually been. Both reactions make sense, honestly. The original series lives on through streaming and, more persistently, through the memories of people who experienced it as children. Lion-O, Chitara, Panthro, Tigra. They became touchstones for an entire generation. Comics have continued exploring the universe. Merchandise still moves. At conventions, ThunderCats cosplay is a reliable presence. The Eye of Thundera, it turns out, keeps watching. From the destruction of old Thundera to the peace of new Thundera. From a boy in a man's body to a leader who'd earned the title. From a decayed sorcerer serving ancient masters to a being who finally answered to no one. The ThunderCats saga covered 4 years, 130 episodes, and an enormous amount of real estate in the imaginations of the kids who grew up with it. It ended with triumph rather than tragedy. The warriors became founders. For those of us who raced home after school, who extended our arms and shouted the battle cry until our parents had genuinely had enough, who believed, actually believed, that loyalty and courage could overcome something as permanent as Mumra. It was never just a cartoon. It was proof that the right kind of story could stick with you for decades. Which ThunderCat were you on the playground? Drop it in the comments, and subscribe if you want more of this.
So that was You'll Never Look at ThunderCats the Same Way Again. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I must say I was very impressed with everything explained into this video. Everybody's abilities. I mean, Lion-O, a 12-year-old kid trapped into an adult's body, and his ability to use the Sword of Omens to use the power to defeat the enemies. Tigra using his Word of Wisdom and his invisible abilities to overshadow the enemy. Panthro with his mechanical genius and nunchucks. Wily Kit and Wily Cat with their scouting abilities, and Chitara being so extremely fast in speed. I guess we can say Snarf is like the comic relief in this. The fact that Mumra relied on his powers from the spirits is very interesting, and at the end of the series, him being an independent being, not relying on anybody, was very interesting to hear, because I've never fully watched this show when I was a kid. I think I stopped at, I hope I'm getting this right, at episode 65 or something. I can't remember. But that was very interesting to hear. And seriously, this is such a wonderful way to relive those memories when I grew up. And I knew about the revival series of 2011, but I never watched it. You cannot forget Jaga as well. I mean, he was the one that guided Lion-O during his missions and trying to save the world. Yeah, and he was a very good father figure to Lion-O. And a word of wisdom for today. If you are having a life of tragedy, why don't you open a new era of hope? Have a blessed day further, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.